Bismillah. It's working. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salamu ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd. Inshallah, today we have Bab al-Istiqama, the chapter on straightness, or, also the station of straightness. Al-Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah ta'ala said, قال الله عز وجل فاستقيموا إليه. Allah Almighty said, so take a straight course to Him. And then He said, قوله عز وجل إليه إشارة إلى عين التفريد. Then He said, قوله إليه.
No, it's good.
What? Hello? Hello? Is that on? Hello? Hello? Ahmed? Hey. Nothing?
That's the 1, 2.
You want to start from the beginning? Take it from the top?
Yeah. Should we start?
Is it working now?
I guess al-Haj, I think it's sensitive or something maybe.
Okay. Can you hear me in the back? Is it working now?
I can't really hear you on this one now.
Bismillah. Bismillah. Now it's working. Okay. Bismillah.
No, this one's not on.
It's working.
Say something?
Something.
It's working.
Okay. Okay, Bismillah. Bismillah.
That's good.
Okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah said, Bab al-Istiqama, the chapter on straightness. قال الله عز وجل فاستقيموا إليه. Allah Almighty said, so take a straight course to Him. قوله عز وجل إليه إشارة إلى عين التفريد. The Almighty is saying إليه, to Him, is an inference to the true essence of tafreed. Tafreed from fard. Fard is singular. So it's the true essence to holding Allah as one, beholding the singularity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what tafreed means. فَاسْتَقِيمُوا إِلَيْهِ. So take a straight course to Him. The chapter on straightness, that concept of istiqama is a very powerful concept. That is why, when Sufyan ibn Abdullah said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell me something of Islam about which I will not ask anyone else. So this is basically like a question that was posed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then how spontaneous the answer came is really beautiful. So the Prophet ﷺ gave him two phrases to hold on to. So he's asking about something that is powerful and simple, and he does not need clarification from people. So here you wanted to give him like advice that is powerful and plain, but at the same time, he will not need to ask. He doesn't need a commentary. He just needs this matan, and the matan, needs to be very brief and summarized. So he said to him, "Tell me something of Islam about which I will not ask anyone else." The Prophet ﷺ said to him, "Qul amantu billahi thumma istaqim." Say, "I believe in Allah," and then be straight. And that straightness, I give you, like I put in the document, some of the synonyms of straightness: loyalty, faithfulness, uprightness, genuineness, trustworthiness, virtue, veracity. All of those are synonyms. All of those are the implications of straightness. It is not just about uprightness, but it is also about the rest of those meanings. And in the statements of the Sahaba and the statements of Tabi'een also pointed this out, that straightness is about all of those. It's about faithfulness, it's about loyalty, it's about genuineness, it's about honesty, frankness, trustworthiness, and all of those. So it's a very beautiful hadith, and if you want to remember, some of the hadith are very easy to remember. So this hadith is like a powerful hadith. It's an authentic hadith, highly authentic, agreed upon, and it has pretty much a very strong message. And then you reflect on straightness. You reflect on straightness in your life. Are you straight in your life? Are you taking the shortest path, which is the straight path, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When Allah says, فَاسْتَقِيمُوا إِلَيْهِ, so take a straight course to Him, then you need to figure out, are you taking a straight course to Allah? Are you taking the shortest path to Allah? Or you're trying to take shortcuts? You're trying to basically be cunning and deceptive sometimes, or not. Like Umar radiallahu anhu said, أن تستقيم على الأمر والنهي ولا تروغ روغان الثعالب. Istiqama, or straightness, when Umar was asked to define it, he said to be straight on the commands and prohibitions, the injunctions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and do not taruq rawagan al-tha'alib, do not be foxy, do not beat around the bush, do not be evasive like foxes. Don't be foxy in your religiosity or in your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many of us are, whether in our interactions with people or even in our interactions with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're not really straight, we're evasive, we're trying to look for ways out of commitment, ways out of, persistence or consistency in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is something that we need to ponder over and something that we need to reflect on with ourselves, if we are truly straight or not. Then Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah said, وَالْإِسْتِقَامَةُ رُوحٌ تَحْيَا بِهَا الْأَحْوَالِ. Straightness is a spirit through which all hals or states come to life. كما تربو للعامة عليها الأعمال, and it is through which the deeds of the common people increase and blossom. So الاستقامة روح تحيا بها الأحوال, straightness is a spirit through which all hals or states come to life. He is saying, don't be deluded by the ahwal, Don't be deluded by spiritual experiences. Don't be deluded by taste. Unless you are straight and unless you have straightness, all of those are rusum. All of those are forms. They are not alive. So you may dress in whichever way you want. You may act in whichever way you want. You may also have whatever experiences you have. Like many of the seekers said, if you see someone fly in the air or walk on the water, do not consider them righteous until you see how straight they are on the Sharia, how consistent they are, and how abiding or conforming to the Sharia they are. So this is extremely important. All the hals, all the states, everything needs straightness to be alive. Otherwise it is rusum, it is forms, it is delusions. And we're trying to basically deceive ourselves by those forms. Then he said, كَمَا تَرْبُو لِلْعَامَّةِ عَلَيْهَا الْأَعْمَالِ, and it is through which that the deeds of the common people increase and blossom. وهي برزخ بين وهاد التفرق وروابي الجمع. وهي برزخ, and it is a crescent in the middle between the pits of divergence and the peaks of union. Sheikh al-Harawi is always trying to basically pull people away from the lows or the valleys of diversion, dispersion, tafarruq. When you are, when you're not together with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This lack of togetherness with Allah, which is tafarruq, dispersion, diversion, it is also tafarruq inside you. If you're not together with Allah, you're not together at all. Your mind, your intellect, your heart, and your body will all be in disharmony. There will be disunion inside you. The only thing that will bring all of them together, that will bring your thoughts together, that will bring your pursuits together, that will give you focus, target, is to be together with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once you're not together with Allah, you are in wihad al-tafarruq. Al-wahd is the low valley, the very low valley. If you have a very low valley between two mountains, you are in those wihad, or the low valleys, or the pits, or the lowest point between the two mountains, which makes you completely unable or incapable of beholding the sun of the truth. It's behind the mountain, and you're not able to behold it. You need to climb to get to the top, Rawabi al-Jama', which is the peaks of al-Jama', union. That is your togetherness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The union here means your togetherness with Allah. Your togetherness with Allah means that you're beholding Allah and not the siwa, the ghayr, all else, others. And on your way to Rawabi al-Jama', or to the heights of union, where you could actually see the sun of the truth. Once you have seen the sun of the truth, it basically distracts, that sun of the truth distracts you from anything else. But on your way to the top, you have to be really straight. You have to make sure that straightness is your way to the top of this mountain, or to the peak of this height. So there is no way other than this. And there is no way other than mujahada in straightness, consistency, persistence, striving in this straightness. Because you are all the way down, you need to get to the top. It requires a lot of work and a lot of climbing, and a lot of straightness and commitment. Straightness could also be sometimes, or istiqamah could also be sometimes translated as steadfastness. So it is steadfastness and straightness, being straight and being consistently straight. Because straightness requires a lot of consistency. To be straight and to walk straight. requires a lot of steadfastness and consistency, and it requires a lot of striving. So he said, وَهِيَ بَرْزَخٌ بَيْنَ وِهَادِ التَّفَرُّقِ وَرَوَابِ الْجَمْعِ. It is a crescent in the middle between the pits of divergence and the peaks of union. وَهِيَ عَلَى ثَلَاثِ دَرَجَاتٍ, and it is 3 levels. الدرجة الأولى الاستقامة على الاجتهاد في الاقتصاد. The first level, straightness upon striving and moderation. Al-ijtihad is striving. Iqtisad is what? When they say iqtisad in Arabic, it means the people economics. It means here, it could be related somehow. It means here moderation. When they talk about iqtisad in ibadah, they mean moderation in ibadah. Moderation in ibadah is a lot more than what we do, keep in mind. So, most of us don't have to worry about this. But الاجتهاد في الاقتصاد. الاقتصاد is the way of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. أصلي وأنام أصوم وأفطر. I sleep and pray. I fast, and then some days I break my fast, and so on. That is اقتصاد. Ijtihad, or striving in this iqtisad, in this moderation, is to keep it up, to keep doing this, and to keep your intention straight and your actions straight, and to stay consistent. So it is being consistent and committed to this moderate path, to this iqtisad. Al-ijtihad fi al-iqtisad. So al-istiqama ala al-ijtihad fi al-iqtisad, being straight in your striving in moderation, being straight. And the 3 words, he put them all in one phrase. They are all relevant, very relevant. So being straight in your striving in moderation. If you can keep this moderation up, then that is your way to rawabi al-jama', to the heights of union with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or togetherness with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is your ultimate goal. He said, لا عاديا رسم العلم. So these are your hal, your condition, while you are being consistent in striving in moderation. Here are 3 things that you need to be cognizant of, and you need to practice. لا عاديا رسم العلم, without contravening the scheme of knowledge. رسم العلم is the scheme of knowledge. لا عاديا رسم العلم, without contravening the scheme of knowledge. What knowledge? The knowledge of Sharia, the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, the knowledge, of our, heritage, the heritage that was defined to us by the Sahaba, including the 4 Khulafa radiallahu anhum, by the followers of Tabi'een, by the various Imams, including the 4 Imams rahimahumullah ta'ala. This is the knowledge that has been passed on to us, the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, with all of the beautiful commentary and the beautiful also practice, the beautiful examples in the lives of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim. It is important that we emphasize this. It is important that we read the seerah of the Sahaba. Read the seerah of the Sahaba. Please read the seerah of the Sahaba. It is very helpful because they are the role models. They are the ones that were given tazkiyah. All of us ask for tazkiyah. You ask for a reference letter from your professor, from your sheikh, from this, from that. Give me tazkiyah, give me this. You want to apply to a university, you want to apply for a job. The Sahaba were given tazkiyah by Allah. They were certainly given tazkiyah by the Prophet ﷺ, but more than this and higher than this, they were given tazkiyah by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إن محمد رسول الله الذين معه لقد رضي الله عن المؤمنين فإن آمنوا بمثل ما آمنتم به. They have been given many tazkiyat by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. So you will not find any better examples, role models, where this knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah was practiced and came to life in their seerah, the seerah of the Prophet's companions. This is extremely important. And that scheme of knowledge, basically he's telling you that your way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be all consistent from beginning to end. From beginning to end, your way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should follow that scheme of knowledge. It is like you draw that straight path based on the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. لا عاديا رسم العلم, not contravening the scheme of knowledge. So you have drawn all the path from beginning to end. This path was drawn, and that is again an emphasis that as-suluk, taking this path to Allah, the path of inner purification, the path of tazkiyah and tasawwuf and inner purification, taking that straight path to Allah never conflicts with the knowledge of the Sharia, with the Quran and the Sunnah and the way of the Sahaba, righteous predecessors, and the Imams, including the four most notable ones. So you draw it before you walk on it. فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لِذَنْبِكَ. Know that there is no God but Allah, and then ask for forgiveness. So first, know that there is no God but Allah. Know, what the path is about, and that does not mean that you wait until you have full knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, because you will not have encompassing knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. But you will have to basically know the basics and hold on to the basics, and every time you become certain of something more, then you add this to the basics. But walk, straight. No shortcuts. Don't take any shortcuts. Hold on to the basics and walk steadily and straight to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he said, وَلَا مُتَجَاوِزًا حَدَّ الْإِخْلَاصِ, or overstepping the bounds of devotion. And that would be basically to mention the second requirement for the acceptance of deed. He mentioned the ilm. He mentioned correctness. How do you become correct? Ikhlas wal sawab. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad said the two conditions, that will make amal salih or righteous is ikhlas, devotion, and sawab, correctness. He first mentioned correctness because ilm is what will correct and rectify your deeds, the true knowledge, beneficial knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah. And then he said he wanted to mention the second requirement, وَلَا مُتَجَاوِزًا حَدَّ الْإِخْلَاصِ, or overstepping the bounds of devotion. And then he said, وَلَا مُخَالِفًا نَهْجَ السُّنَّةِ, or deviating from the way of Sunnah. وَلَا مُخَالِفًا نَهْجَ السُّنَّةِ, or deviating from the way of Sunnah. And the way of Sunnah, part of the Sunnah belongs to the basics. The way of Sunnah is in part mandatory, and that belongs to the basics. You must adhere to them. And part of the Sunnah is optional, voluntary. And that will be good not for the basics, not for the straightness and correctness, but for the speed and stamina. That is important for speed and stamina, because you also need speed and stamina with the straightness. You could be straight, but you also need the speed and the stamina with the straightness. So the parts of the Sunnah that are binding on us, this is important so that you do not contravene the scheme of knowledge. They are part of the first category, important part of the scheme of knowledge. And then the parts of the Sunnah that are optional, voluntary, the way of the Prophet ﷺ in every aspect. The closer you get to his example, the greater your speed will be, and the more strength you will have on this path. Then he said, الدرجة الثانية استقامة الأحوال. He said the second level is استقامة الأحوال, the straightness of the hals or the states. وهي, and it is about شهود الحقيقة لا كسبا, beholding the truth not as a personal achievement. شهود الحقيقة, شهود is beholding, حقيقة the truth. لا كسبا, meaning not as your personal achievement. When you behold the truth, you want, after beholding the truth and after, being straight and being guided and having tawfiq and having sadad from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having madad, help, support from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of this, if you have all of this, it is important that you understand that this is not your own doing, la kasban, not as a personal achievement. And in this case, when it is not as a personal achievement, it will bring about no arrogance, but rather gratefulness, and more gratefulness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He guided you and He gave you the tawfiq and the sadad and the madad, the guidance and support. Then he said, وَرَفْضُ الدَّعْوَةِ لَا عِلْمًا, and disavowing or disowning all claims, any da'wah, any claim, لَا عِلْمًا, not out of or in compliance with knowledge. Rafd al-da'wah, basically, when you have good ahwal, when you are in a good state with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you feel that you are in a good state, then the shaitan will basically whisper to you that you are in a good state. And then if you feel, if you sort of agree with the shaitan that you actually arrived into a good state, this will be a claim on your part, because even if you feel it, you should not allow yourself to believe it. You should not allow yourself to believe yourself that you arrived to a good state, because that will be a trick from the shaitan to make you feel that you are in a hal above, greater than the rest of the people, or in a condition greater than the rest of the people. That da'wah, that claim, should be disavowed, should be disowned by you. He said, la ilman, not out of knowledge, or not in compliance with, not just in compliance with knowledge. It could mean this or it could mean that. We don't know what the Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah said. But la ilman means not out of knowledge. And in this case it means not out of knowledge that you have not arrived. Because if you know that you have not arrived, then basically that is only expected of you to know that you have not arrived. But if the knowledge tells you that you arrived, that is when you want to disown that claim. Like if you compare your state to the knowledge of Sharia, then the knowledge of Sharia will tell you you arrived. I mean, if you are praying half of the night or 1/3 of the night, and if you're fasting every Monday and Thursday or every other day, and if you are trying to really be dutiful towards your parents, your children, your spouse, and if you're really trying to, if you are being honest in your business transactions, and your dealings with people in general, and if you're being kind and compassionate, and if you have the taste of sweetness of faith, halawat al-iman, the knowledge will tell you you arrived. And this is when you want to disown the da'wah, despite the knowledge agreeing with the da'wah, with the claim. And the other way to look at it is to say that is not in compliance with knowledge, meaning that you are not disowning the da'wah to comply with knowledge, because if you, what knowledge here? What's the knowledge here that you will comply with? It's the tawadu, it's humbleness. Because if you disown the da'wah in compliance with knowledge, it means what? That you already made the da'wah, recognized it, acknowledged it, and then you give it up. Like you're saying to yourself, no, I am actually there, but out of humbleness, I will disown it. And that is arrogance, even though it may look like humbleness, because you have basically attributed this hal to yourself. You have acknowledged your arrival in this maqam or this hal, and then just out of humbleness, you're disowning it. That is arrogant. That is arrogant. So, رفض الدعوة لا علما means these two things. Even if the ilm agrees with you that you actually are in a good state, then you should disown the da'wah. But you're not disowning the da'wah just in compliance with the ilm or to be humble as instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. You're disowning the da'wah because you truly do not see yourself that you arrived. You're always doubtful because all of those are forms. And the niyyah is the soul that needs to be breathed into the form, the body. And how could you guarantee your niyyah in all of this? Yes, you're praying 1/3 of the night for those of us. And I'm not claiming to be that man, and I don't expect, that, I hope that we have in our presence people that have arrived. But I'm just giving an example. I'm trying to imagine one of the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, our great Imams and scholars and so on. They're consistently praying 1/3 of the night, consistently fasting every other day, consistently being honest and being truthful and being candid and being compassionate and all of this, and being dutiful towards all the people and so on. All of this is good and great. How do you guarantee that you have the right intention for all of this, for any of this? How do you guarantee that you truly have the right intention? And since that is not guaranteed, and you cannot guarantee that, you should continue to be skeptical. You should continue to have doubt about yourself and about your hal. And that doubt will drive you to, devotion and commitment and further straightness. And then he said, وَالْبَقَاء مَعَ نُورِ الْيَقَظَةِ لَا تَحَفُّظًا. الْبَقَاء مَعَ نُور الْيَقَظَةِ. Baqa is to stay with. Nur al-yaqaza, the light of wakefulness. Yaqaza is alertness and wakefulness. So to stay with the light of alertness and the light of wakefulness. لا تحفظا, without beholding one's guardianship of the light. Without beholding one's guardianship of the light. And his expressions are very beautiful. Rahimahullah wa radiya anhu wa qaddasa ruha. So may Allah have mercy on him and be pleased with him and sanctify his soul. He said, staying in the light of wakefulness. Because he's telling you that this light is not yours. It's not like you're holding the torch in your hand and you have the light. He's telling you whenever there is light, stay with this light because this is not coming from you. You're just enjoying the light. Stay with it. As long as there is light, stay in the light. Don't venture away from the light because the torch is not in your hand. And that is what he means when he says, لا تحفظا, not beholding one's guardianship of the light. Because of the light coming from the torch in your hand, you could walk, wherever you want because you have the light. But you don't have the light. You're just enjoying the light. There is a light that is coming. This spot is well lit. Stay there as long as there is light because this light is not yours. It is coming from the divine, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then just stay with the light of wakefulness. And since you're not the guardian of this light, don't venture away from it because you will lose it. It's not in your hand. والبقاء مع نور اليقظة لا تحفظا. And then he says الدرجة الثالثة استقامة بترك رؤية الاستقامة. We will get into the third level. Third level is straightness by not watching one's straightness. Every third level, in every station, Imam al-Harawi wants you to vanish, wants your ego to vanish, wants your irada to vanish into the irada of Allah. Your irada, your will, He wants your will to conform to the will of Allah to the point where we call your will dead. Maut al-irada, which is the death of your own irada, your own will. Keep in mind, this is to an extent metaphoric, because every living creature has a will. You know, on your way to Allah until you get to the end of this path, on your very last day in life, when you wake up to pray Salat al-Fajr, when you head to the masjid or the prayer mat to pray, you are willful and you are working on your intention to purify it. And that indicates that your will does not completely die in that sense, but your will conforms to the will of Allah. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت له. None of you will have faith until his own interests and desires are in conformity, in harmony with that which I have brought forth. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. When your own interests and desires are in conformity with what he brought forth, it means that your will vanished into Allah's will. That it conformed to Allah's will. You do not will anything except that which He wills, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what it means. It does not mean that your will pass away completely, because you are a willful agent. Every living creature is a willful agent, but it will conform with the will of Allah to the point where, you could say that it had vanished into the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. تكون عبدا ربانيا. You become a abd that is Rabbani, godly in everything you say. And then when you are, then Allah becomes your hand with which you strike, your legs with which you walk, your eyes with which you see, your ears with which you hear. And then you reach that level of taqween. When you say to something kun fayakun, or when you start to have those karamat, when the universe starts to respond to your harmony with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep in mind that it is important that you understand that the creature is not the creator. We're not trying to say here al-abdu rabbun wal-rabbu abd abadan. We're not trying to say the servant is the Lord and the Lord is the servant. That is, overstepping the bounds. And these are, the sort of the idiosyncratic statements that we did not really hear from the Sahaba. We never heard from the Sahaba. They never needed to be that symbolic to cause confusion and to cause people misguidance. We're not going there. We're just trying to say لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت له. Try to stick to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If that is what vanishing, what self-annihilation means, then that is certainly pure and wholesome. That is what the Prophet ﷺ told us, that our desires will pass away in conformity with Allah's will. Completely. You will not want anything except that which Allah wants. And this requires training, and it requires, exercise, and there are steps. One of the things that you could do is to eat less. Beginning on this path, gluttony is the first, misstep. Gluttony is the first misstep. It came before lust. Don't eat from the tree. They ate from the tree. Then فَبَدَتْ لَهُمَا سَوْآتُهُمَا. Then their nakedness became disclosed to them, afterwards. So gluttony preceded lust. Start from there. Try to eat less. You know, Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah had a chapter in al-Ihya about fadilat al-ju' wa dhamm al-shiba. It's the virtue of hunger and the dispraise of satiety, or, you know, being full. So start there and then do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even when you're not fasting, just like don't indulge in eating and drinking, because that is the beginning to the tughyan of the ego, the transgression of the ego, because your nafs wants this and wants that, and your wife baked something and you want to eat a little bit of it, and then you want to drink your coffee, but you want also to grab something with your coffee, and then afterwards there are some nuts, you're leaving the nuts in the living room, you know, in the middle on the table in the living room, and then you just like start to nibble on the nuts. But you keep on doing this, and that is really a misstep. Then this would be followed by lust. Think about it. If you are on the verge of hunger, you will not have that much lust. So try it out. Try this. It is helpful. And then if you don't have the gluttony, and then that will sort of suppress your lust or lustful desires, then you will start to have more clarity here, and more focus. You will feel lighter. You'll feel more focused. Just try this out. This is for beginners, by the way. You know, this is not for the third level. We're just saying that if you ever want to get anywhere close to the third level, this is something where we can start. Put yourself on a diet. And it's not like a South Beach diet, or I'm just saying, you know, like a true one. You eat less. So Imam al-Harawi he got to the third level, and in the third level, Imam al-Harawi will talk to us about self-annihilation, and that you're not seeing anything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's about, you know, it's about being distracted by al-mashhud an al-shuhud wal-madlul an al-dalil. So بترك رؤية الاستقامة, not watching one's straightness, وبالغيبة عن تطلب الاستقامة. بترك رؤية الاستقامة, not watching one's straightness, and you know, now you're not seeing any of your actions. You're only seeing Allah and Allah's actions and attributes. So your own straightness, you're not watchful of this. Keep in mind that when you were drawing the path, you drew the path in compliance with what? لا عاديا رسم العلم. The whole scheme was drawn in compliance with the knowledge. So the fact that you're not watching your straightness does not mean that you become deviant in this third level. Your path has been all drawn before in compliance with the ilm. But now your straightness has become a second nature. Like you are straight, like by nature. So you're not, while you stay watchful of, you know, the knowledge itself, but your own straightness will not distract you. You will not trip over yourself, meaning you will not be distracted by your own straightness from seeing the one that you're seeking. You know, I am traveling to him. If I continue to watch my straightness, that will take away from my shuhud, my vision of him. Azza wa Jal, exalted is he. So, and that is where you want to be in that third level. And then he said, وَبِالْغَيْبَةِ عَنْ تَطَلُّبِ الْإِسْتِقَامَةِ بِشُهُودِ إِقَامَةِ الْحَقِّ وَتَقْوِيمِهِ عَزَّ اسْمُهُ. بِالْغَيْبَةِ عَنْ تَطَلُّبِ الْإِسْتِقَامَةِ, being distracted from the pursuit of straightness, بشهود إقامة الحق وتقويمه عز اسمه, by beholding the guardianship and straightening of the truth. Mighty is his name. Okay. وبالغيبة عن تطلب الاستقامة, being distracted from the pursuit of straightness, by beholding بشهود إقامة الحق. Here in the third level, everything it's all about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's why in the third level he uses al-haq often. He wants to say he is the truth. He is the truth. Therefore, anything else is not the truth. We know that we are true creatures, living creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just because He is the true creator. The fact that we are contingent, our contingency is not basically an indication of our lack of existence. Our contingency is not an indication of our lack of existence. And that is important, because the people who talk about fana or the divine union or indwelling, hulul and ittihad and wahda and so on, they always want to get to that point, and they tell you that you're the contingent, he's the necessary. You are the jaiz, he is the daruri, he is the necessary, wajib al-wujud. He is the necessary, you are only contingency, therefore he is the truth, you are not. By saying he is the truth in the sense that he is the creator and originator of all things, but he is also the true creator, meaning that he does create true creations, and we are his true creations. Our contingency is not a proof of our lack of existence, but it is a proof on our lack of hawl and quwwah. Lack of hawl. Hawl is what? Influence. I think influence is the best translation for hawl, because hawl is when you can tahawwal, transform, change from something to something, and influence gives that meaning, right? To influence. So hawl is influence, quwwah is power. Your contingency, the fact that you are a contingent creation, disposable creation. Aren't we all disposable? If one of us, passes away tomorrow, may Allah give you Umr Madid, a long life in His service, and Khatima Hasana to all of us, Ameen Ya Rabb, and good ending. But if someone of us passed away tomorrow, there is not much that the world will carry on, and so we're very disposable creations. But that does not mean that we're non-existent. We're still existent. But that contingency means to us our complete lack of hawl and quwwah. At one point we were Adam. Just the very fact that at one point we were non-existent. We were complete Adam, nothingness. And Allah brought us to existence. So sometimes we say that the dalil, the signposts, point to al-madlul, to the one that is being pointed out by the signposts. But then at one point, you don't see the signposts when you see the madlul, the one, the truth that is being pointed out by the signpost. Then you start to not see the path, you start to not see the milestones, you start to not see the walk, the journeyer, which is yourself, because you are being distracted by the glory, the beauty, the majesty of the true one that you have been able to behold. Behold with your heart in this dunya, and insha'Allah for all of us with your eyesight in the hereafter. So that brings us to the end of this. Keep in mind that the third level, it is extremely important that there is no claim There is no confusion between the creation and the creator. That is one of the pitfalls of the path. When people make that claim or start to drop the bounds between the creator and the creation. Because keep in mind, the ulama could be deluded, the ulama could have their ghurur. The ulama could have their ghurur because the ulama could always justify their acts through knowledge. You have the knowledge, you know all the tricks, you know all the shortcuts, you know all the concessions, you know all the disagreements, so you could always justify to yourself everything. But the Sufiya could be also deluded. The claimants of Sufism, the Sufiya could be also deluded by the Rusum, and they could also be extremely deluded by the claim of ittihad or union with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you claim union with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you claim that you vanished into the divine, then whatever you're doing from the time you wake up in the morning is divine, right? You're not watching your steps anymore because you are part of the divine. When you get to the point where you say there is nothing inside the cloak except God, or you say Subhani, and these shatahat, although some of the people who made those shatahat, we can find excuses for them just in the state of sukr or intoxication. But keep in mind, if you wake up and you still think the same way, you still think that you're part of the divine, that is if there is no greater delusion than this, and there is nothing greater in risk and harm than this, because everything you will do, you will think that this is the divine work, the divine act. Whatever you do is part of the divine, and that is when you find people starting to completely go off the straight path, because they have this delusion that they have now become part of the divine. That delusion is worse than the delusion of the fuqaha. It's worse, a lot worse than the delusion of the fuqaha if they become deluded. قل قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك